I grew up in New York City, so how did I let my ex-husband choose an apartment that I knew wouldn't work for us? I went against my instinct to try to keep the peace, and it cost us $9,000. Oh my God, that flight was like... He did pick Manhattan, which checked the box on paper, but didn't solve the real problem of our lives. Yeah. Hello? We can't get in the apartment. We tried just wiggling it. It's not working. Okay. I know. I wish Dad could see this. I'm really hoping the super comes up any minute. In order to get the full brevity of the situation, I'm gonna need to rewind to a conversation I had with my then husband 3 months earlier while I was still in California. I'm really concerned about the apartment you chose. The building, itself looks secure, but it looks a little sketchy. I have nothing against Harlem. There's a lot of great neighborhoods in Harlem. And I'm just looking at Google Streets. It looks really dark, and I'm worried about our kids' safety, and I really want you to reconsider. I'm really, my gut feeling about this is it's like alarm bells are ringing, and I'm really concerned. Also, it's in a 2-fare zone, which really is not going to work. What happens if my mom has an emergency and I need to get to her? I had a gut feeling that the apartment was not going to work out. My boss at the time generously offered to fly me in and look at apartments, or at least check the neighborhood and make sure that it was safe for my son and close enough to my mom's apartment. But my ex declined and insisted that this was the apartment. Quick recap. My husband and I were separated and about to become divorced. We had an arrangement where we were bi-coastally bird nesting. So we were rotating 1 month at a time, taking care of our son who was finishing high school in California. That was the plan until my husband got his dream job in New York City, and that changed everything. To be fair to him, I think he really wanted to emulate the fabulous apartment that we had in California, which was really unbeatable. It had washer and dryer inside the apartment. It had 2 bedrooms plus a den that my daughter lived in basically for 4 years. A beautiful balcony that the cats wouldn't really die if they accidentally fell. And overlooking the pool. It was just amazing. And I think that he was trying to duplicate that. But every situation is different, and you can't just repeat, rinse and repeat. You have to stay in the moment.
Wow, Mom. Thank you.
3 months earlier, I had all of the pieces, but couldn't quite figure out how they were gonna work. I had to lay it out in a way that made sense to me. The factors that I had to work with were that I had to be near my mom's or live with her, not only to help her, but to establish residency. At first, I had considered being a live-in caretaker / companion to my friend's mom and just living at my own mom's on the weekends and just checking in on her during the week before work. Once it became clear that my ex's schedule was pretty much set in stone, I needed to take care of my then 16-year-old son on the weekends while my ex was away. And during the week, my son could stay with said ex, and that would be their time together. Eventually, I decided that I could try to live with my mom despite our previously tumultuous relationship and go to my job on the Upper East Side and then go to my son on the weekends. Basically, I was looking at being an overtime caretaker. How did this happen? Anyway, I spent many hours discussing at length and planning how to proceed with a plan that would consider everyone's needs, including my own, which seemed a little slim at this point. I quickly realized that this caretaking puzzle was going to be possible, but I would, number one, need to take care of myself, and number two, I would need the apartment that my son was going to be in to be in close proximity to my mom in case anything came up in the afternoon and I needed to get to Jude or to my mom. I knew that my ex was going to be working probably late, and so I wanted to make sure that he had a network, at least his family, nearby in case he needed any support. That was a critical factor. So my one request was that the apartment be in Manhattan, which meant in close proximity to my mother's apartment, which is also in Manhattan. We needed a place that was safe for my teen and that I could get to quickly from my mom's, or he could get to me quickly. I felt betrayed because I was the one holding the consequences. I'm not saying he's a bad person, just that the choice ignored the reality of our lives and cost us $9,000 and a lot of stress. So when we arrived in New York with the two cats, who, by the way, stopped eating or drinking, I've never traveled this amount of time with two cats, and apparently this is what they do. Which is smart. They just start little bears. They start hibernating, and they're like, where are we going to go to the bathroom? So they just stop. And by the time we got to the door, my ex-husband told me where the key was. We were going to come in, set up the cat litter and the food, and relax and just settle into the apartment. Then I called my ex-husband, who called the super. The super would not come up right away because there's a building policy that every time they come up, it's a $150 charge, et cetera, et cetera. And he was like, this is not my job. Luckily, the super did come up and took pity on us, and in a matter of 3 seconds was able to open the door with his man hands, apparently. And it just was like at the threshold where that little bit of strength. I was a real estate agent and I've opened many doors and I could not get this door open. So anyway, we entered into the apartment. I really wanted to show him that I could compromise because I felt he was really trying to cooperate, and we both were aligned with the vision of being civilized through our divorce and supporting our kids. You see, 5 months earlier when he got his dream job and no one was in New York to take care of my mom. So I asked him if he would stay at my mom's rather than pay rent someplace else until I could get there 5 months later. He agreed to stay during the week, and on the weekends he went to see his new girlfriend. I wanted to keep the peace, but I felt it was wrong from the very start when he told me he put the application into this apartment. The next morning, my ex-husband had called the locksmith. They came. They could not fix the door. They had to get a special alignment system, apparently. Anyway, this went on for days and days. Before I got to New York, I had told my ex-husband my concern about being able to get into the apartment. I've never traveled this long with cats, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, I'm not concerned about it. So I was like, okay. But he had gotten locked out twice already. So he sprayed some WD-40 in the door and said, this should work. You just have to kind of fiddle with it and it should work. Anyway, so needless to say,
Out. The key will break inside. 1 second. It's not supposed to be like that.
Right. Okay, the plate is ruined. It's old. How old do you think it is?
I don't know, but it's old.
Okay.
This is when
The next 48 hours were all about how I was going to be able to come and go and create access in this apartment that was in Upper Manhattan, let's just say Upper Manhattan, and the locks didn't work. Not only did the locks not work, but we got a great locksmith who was really trying to help us, but the landlord wasn't willing to pay a locksmith. And here's why. In a weird twist of events, every male who came up to the apartment was able to turn the lock and get into the apartment with a little bit of extra force. We found out later that the previous tenant, she was not able to get into the apartment and had problems with this lock before. When I think of this, it's maddening. When the super came up, he was able to turn the key. When the locksmith came, he was able to turn the key. When my soon-to-be ex-husband was there, even though he got locked out a few times, he was able to turn the key with a little bit of WD-40. And yet my daughter and I were not able to turn this key in the right pressure or force or whatever it was. And I guess he didn't believe us. I don't know what the problem was. Maybe it was because I was the ex-wife, but he would not pay to have this lock replaced. I'll just do a quick walkthrough. And the apartment itself it's actually pretty lovely. I just had a little yoga. Unfortunately, cats are pretty smart, but I felt this drop was just a little too far down for my comfort level. It's 7 stories, and although I really love being up high, I was just very nervous about the cats. My cats are kind of clumsy, and I could see them misstepping. So that was another thing. I did arrive with the expectation of making it work. During the next couple of days, I went and I got keys made. It happened to be my daughter's 19th birthday, and we made the most of it. The closets are just really amazing. Like pantry, tool closet, another closet, and another closet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Besides the closets in the bedrooms. So that is very unusual for a New York City apartment. Second bathroom, very similar to the first, but accessible, by the living room. Again, with these beautiful tiles and choices of fixtures, really nice. And an LG washer and dryer, very convenient. And the second bedroom, with these really adorable little place for shoes. So you can have a double stack of shoes. This is a great apartment. Unfortunately, for us, it just wasn't the right fit, sadly. I'm gonna get there by public transportation. It was a 2-fare zone. I would have to, number one choice, take the train to the Bronx and come back into the city from the Bronx back into Manhattan. That was number 1. If I was going to take a combination of a subway and bus, then I would have to get off the subway and walk about 2 blocks in Harlem, in the not bad part of Harlem, but still, if I was carrying anything, then it would be a schlep. and get onto a bus, then take the bus another like 20 minutes. And or I could take the subway to the Bronx and walk across a bridge. Okay? Or I could take a bus, but the bus took like 45 minutes to get from my mom's house to this apartment in Upper Manhattan. It was harrowing, and I was already not feeling great about this apartment, but the last straw was the landlord not being willing to fix his own property and make sure that the people coming and going into the apartment have access. That is definitely the landlord's responsibility. The landlord having this attitude towards us was the last straw for me. I was not going to be able to live there in this apartment, and I had two terminally ill parents. A lovely new boss. She is nothing if not generous. She offered to lend me the money to get into a new apartment and get set up somewhere I was safe and accessible to my mother's apartment. Thank you. I mean, it's just such an amazing thing when women get each other and help each other. I can't even tell you what this meant to me. So we proceeded to speak to a lawyer and make sure that we could try to appeal to the current landlord and get out of the lease. For the next 3 days, I found an apartment. My husband at the time said as long as it's a similar price to the one that he found, he would consider it. And I did the groundwork. I came up with about 2 or 3 options for him to look at, and he did. We agreed that it wasn't a 2-bedroom, it was a 1-bedroom, so we took a concession, and we had to pay an enormous amount of money. We had to not only pay double rent for a couple of months and a new broker's fee, because the building that I found, they required a broker's fee. It also required a guarantor, because even though my husband got this amazing job, he didn't have like enough time had gone by to get like proper tax returns to show. And so we had to get a guarantor. We had to pay like a service to get this guarantor, and I kicked in for that. That was wiped out my savings. And you know what? It was worth it for me, because the peace of mind that I get from knowing that my son is in a safe neighborhood is worth having $0 in my bank. So that's what I did. And we recouped some of the money from the car sale. However, we couldn't get the money for the car sale because the title was packed and en route from California on a truck. So it was it was probably one of the most stressful weeks of my life as a woman and a mom, to be like isolated in an area where I didn't feel comfortable. And I don't know that I would claim this neighborhood as dangerous, but I definitely felt that I had to kind of project a certain vibe so that people would leave me alone. I don't know how else to say it, but I just definitely felt like my antennas were up. There was an element, and on the way to the hardware store, I saw like 5 drug deals, cop cars. When I got home at night, it's just, I mean, the building itself is super secure, and the apartment is really lovely. But all of those things, with everything that I have going on and this new transition of getting separated and divorced, I just felt like this wasn't going to be workable. Luckily, my ex-husband eventually shifted, and we were able to find an apartment that was only 250 square feet less than this apartment. It does not have two bathrooms, but it's accessible every train line goes to this neighborhood, and it's good for all of us. And my son can come home, chill out after school. He can rest, recuperate, and feed the cats, spend some time with the cats, and and then decide whether he feels like going out, meeting my daughter who's in the downtown neighborhood, or meeting his friends, or it'll just give him a sense of independence in the city, which we really want to foster. So you might be wondering, how does an intelligent 56-year-old woman end up in a crazy situation like this? And if I'm honest, I think deep down, I was really holding out hope that at the end of the day, the person I chose to be my lifelong partner would be able to act in my best interest. So, this is hard to say out loud, but I realize now that I need to be this person for myself. So here's to me and all of the women out there who take care of others, secretly hoping to be taken care of, and that are taking small steps in the direction of being their own hero. You're gonna be okay. Yeah, you're gonna be okay.